Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for October 1st, 2013. I'm Joe Lynch. My guest tonight is Brock Parker, a 27-year-old professional poker player from Silver Springs, Maryland.
So Google says.
As of 2009, his total live tournament winnings exceed $1.2 million. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why you should be very cautious when reading things on the internet. My guest is actually Brock Parker, the new Somerville correspondent for the Boston Globe. No stranger to Somerville, Brock is a former reporter for the Somerville Journal. After a 7-year hiatus, he now finds himself right back where he started, not with the Journal, but with the Boston Globe. Please welcome back to Somerville, the Brookline, Cambridge, and Somerville correspondent for the Boston Globe, Brock Parker. You didn't see that coming, though, did you, my friend?
You got me, but I have seen that before. Looking them up, everyone Googles themselves. I've done it, and I've seen it. It's like, man, I could be a millionaire poker player.
There you go. There you go.
Wrong line of work.
It's always amazing what happens when you Google yourself. You know, I'm an Irish actor, but I'm dead. So,
that's my condolences.
There you go. There you go. The rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. Trust me. Welcome back to Somerville.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
It's good
to be
have you.
Yeah.
You've been over at the Globe. We're going to talk a little bit about why you abandoned us here in Somerville.
Okay.
You've been over at the Globe for a little bit.
Yep. Came back. I was down in Pennsylvania for a while, and we'll get to that, I guess. But came back up in 2009, and. Not a good time for newspapers at the moment, so I started working as a correspondent for the Globe. It was right around the time they were launching Your Town, and I've been there ever since. I've been doing Brookline and Cambridge, Arlington, and Lexington.
Yep. Now, Your Town, for those folks who are savvy with internet news, Your Town is that part of Boston.com, the Boston Globe. Right. Where each of the towns that the Globe covers has its own little site.
Right. It's kind of Boston.com's hyper-local space for, in this case, Somerville.
Right. And David Dahl, who is one of the chief honchos over there.
Yep, he's the editor.
David, be good to Brock. He's much larger than you are.
No, he's a big Swede.
Well, so. I know. I met David when he first came over. So it was, for those of you who are familiar with the work of Your Town, it was Daniel Dreilinger and
Travis Anderson
before you, and now they're spreading you thin because you say, well, he's 6'4", whatever it is, he can cover all these towns.
Plenty to spread thin, yeah. Well, so I'm not going to be covering Arlington and Lexington anymore, so Somerville will kind of fill in for the two of those. Obviously, Somerville's much busier than both of those. Are both kind of veteran towns, and Somerville is hopping.
Well, it was funny, the introduction that I gave you on the got some guffaws. That when last time you were covering Somerville for the Somerville Journal, there were rumors of investigations and rumors of Joe Curtatone running for governor and rumors of corrupt developers. Some things never change.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of wading back into the same pool that I left 7 years ago.
You can just recycle some of your old articles. There you go, Brock.
Just put a new top on them.
Yeah, there you go. Put a new headline, and things will work out. But seriously, a lot has happened. I mean, as you know, on this television show, we've had many media folks. From one of the first guest appearances by a media person was Kat Powers, your old editor at the
now at the Red Cross.
She's at the Red Cross, enjoying her fame.
Right.
She's using a lot more makeup than she ever has when she does her television live shots of disasters that she assists with.
Saving the world. That sounds about like Kat.
That's Kat. Clara Barton, Kat Powers.
Yeah.
So you left, and congratulations, by the way. In that intervening year, you've been busy. You got married.
Yep, I got married.
You have a child on the way.
Got a baby on the way in December.
Congratulations.
So, hoping it'll be a Christmas child.
There you go. Yeah. And you'll name it Hanukkah or
I kicked around Noel, but my wife shot that down. So we'll see.
There you go. But congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Somerville, coming back to roost in Somerville.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I've kind of started back into last week, so I'm obviously just kind of beginning to get my bearings, and and Somerville has a lot to cover, so it's a little intimidating, kind of wading back into it, but I know the city. I've enjoyed it a lot. So
And you know most of the players.
I know most of the players. Obviously, there's new people. People come and go. I actually was last night. I was on the phone with Paul Upton in the police department, and he was the public information officer as I was leaving the Somerville Journal years ago. And he is obviously retiring. Last night was his last night on the job. So ships passing the night.
I'm glad you said that, because I very rarely. Well, people are laughing out there now. Very rarely do I say anything of a personal nature on blog posts or websites or anything like that. That reminds me, we're going to talk about that. There's this whole movement to get rid of comments online. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
What are the people at the Somerville News going to do? Oh my God. But anyway, Paul Upton, this is a message once again from me to you and from my family who knows you well. Best wishes, my friend, on a very, very healthy, long, and productive retirement. What a great guy.
Yeah, he was always really great to work with. And
just, a true gentleman, true compassion, true human being. If you took away the uniform, you wouldn't know that he was one of the top law enforcement folks in the city. So
I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see him land somewhere else, though. He sounds like he's still got some fire in the belly, and I bet you he'll end up working somewhere else.
He did make it clear at the little tribute that the Board of Aldermen gave to him. He made it clear that he did not want to go into retirement.
Right.
Paul, don't worry about it. I'm on my third act of retirement.
65, so he had to retire, but it's a lot. It's not like he was,
Yeah. So, the players are still here. Some of them are going to come and go, but one of the hot topics, we can move into, some of the stuff that you covered before. But one of the hot topics right now is Curtatone going to run for governor or not?
Right.
Michael Capuano pulled himself out.
Right.
What's Joe going to do?
I don't know.
Come on, Parker. You've been covering the city for 2 days now.
Yeah, I tell you, I should have the beat on it. Joe's got a pretty powerful following, I guess you could say. He's an energetic guy. And I think a lot of people are waiting to see what he's going to do. I mean, obviously, I think Martha Coakley's got the inside track as to run him. But, if he ran, he would definitely be an interesting candidate. So,
but here's the problem that Joe has, I think. This is only my opinion. It's my show. I can give my opinion. Here's the problem he has. He appeals to a certain demographic within the Democratic Party. And let me not get myself in trouble here, but it's okay. They tend to be slightly more conservative than the progressive wing of the Democratic Party or the uber-liberal wing of the Democratic Party. Therefore, he can get, like, Fox News, and he can get WRKO Talk Radio, and he can get those people to kind of listen to him. The problem is that same crowd who listens to Fox and WRKO and reads the Herald and has kind of like that middle-of-the-road Democratic Party, they will abandon him and go to Charlie Baker.
Right.
So that's the problem Joe has.
Well, I really don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see where it plays because, Martha Coakley would come in to, she's obviously going to come in further left than him. So
women's vote, progressive vote, a state Democratic Party vote. Who knows what's going to happen with Steve Grossman? Right. Nobody knows. He's got some issues with tax problems or something like that. They effectively got rid of Dan Wolf. They basically said, we don't want him. He's like a fly in the ointment, so we'll make something up about ethics breach. So, the party is still pretty powerful. But with the departure of John Walsh, and then who knows who's going to take it over. They're talking about, what's his name, their former senator from Lynn. McGee? Is it McGee? I don't know. They're talking about McGee taking over the state Democratic Party. My feeling is these guys don't want to lose to a Republican again, so they're never going to have multiple Democratic candidates. They're going to let it be known, we're behind Martha, we want her in, we're going to vote, and that's the way we're going to go. So, Joe's not stupid. Joe he's reading the tea leaves at this point.
Right.
So if he makes a run, he's making a run, political hyperbole aside, I'm going to win. No. You don't understand how the electorate votes are outside of Somerville. He's popular in Somerville. Right. He's very popular in Somerville. He may be popular in a couple of the other towns, but once you get beyond Waltham, people have no idea who he is.
Right.
So, the bandwagon's out there. The PR machine has been operating. The websites are up, and who knows how many of those followers are real followers, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So let me jump into that. The news industry, as you knew it coming into it, is all but transformed.
Yeah. I mean, just in the past few weeks, you can look. I mean, Gatehouse, Somerville Journal has filed for bankruptcy. Patch is doing layoffs. Your town has had its struggles as well. It's and the Globe and everywhere else. Every news,
Globe was sold.
And the Globe was sold, and we're still waiting to see, if we're going to be, operating out of center field at Fenway Park next year.
I heard you already have your little basket selling hot dogs out there on Marcy Avenue. Is that true?
It might come down to that. Who knows? But every paper I've ever worked with has had some sort of major change in the last 3 to 5 years,
right.
And I don't think it's done. And the reshuffling is going to continue until something can stabilize, and I don't know if that's even going to happen.
One of the very first conversations I had about the changing face of the news industry was with Cat Powers,
right?
And one of the former editors of the Somerville News, now Somerville Times. We'll get into that. There's another one that's gone through gyrations. Jamie Norton, who used to be the editor of the Somerville News, Jamie and Kat both sat on this show and talked about nobody knows what the answer is, but it's an evolution that will take place over the next 10 years.
Right.
The primary culprit, if you will, is the internet.
Right.
Nobody has been able to figure out how to make money from an online-only newspaper. Nobody knows yet.
Yep. And the news isn't going away. The reporters are there, but it's. I think the industry is honestly beginning to kind of cannibalize itself at this point, because you get down to such a threadbare of staffing, and then it's, why are people going to come back to the product if there's not much product left?
Right.
And that's the struggle.
Well, I mean, not you, and, if David and your Marsha over at the Globe say, why did you ever go on that show? The guy's a live cannon. The problem is that in the print part of the newspaper, the product was so much more substantial. You had so much more news packed into those, bulk of a newspaper. Now it's down to a column, a quarter column, a half column. And that's not your fault as being part of the industry. It's not, the editor's fault. It's the contraction and expansion of another product. And that other product is online news.
Right.
I mean, where do you go from there? I know you don't have the answer, because if you did, you'd own a newspaper yourself. But you're right. The news as we knew it is transformed. I love doing this show because I get to talk to professionals. I get to talk to people who are actually part of the industry. Our own little organization here, I'm going to give a plug, we're going to start our own little news show.
Yeah.
Not me. Other folks here want to do a news show, and I think it's terrific for Scat TV to have a news show. Yeah. They have the same sources. They don't have to be running around the city to a fire or, to a violent crime or anything like that. They can do all of it right from here, breaking news stories. So I think it's great. You should get a television show. You want to come on here and co-host?
I don't have a face for TV.
Oh,
I got a face for print.
A face for print. I got a face for radio. That's excellent. Let's. John Henry buys the Globe. Anything happening catastrophic?
I think we're waiting to see. I mean, I'm a correspondent, so I don't work in the office.
Right.
But I think everyone was happy that it was a local guy who bought it.
Right.
And the last time, all I know is the last time he bought something here, Fenway Park got renovated instead of being torn down, and the Red Sox won the World Series.
And successful.
So, I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I really don't. And
he's a bright business guy.
Yeah, I mean, all the evidence is at least pointing in that direction.
Say no. Say John Henry is not a bright businessman.
Yeah. I'll get shipped off to the Dodgers.
There you go.
But I mean, I think it's kind of exciting to see what he's going to do, because here is this guy who's had such a long line of success, and what is he going to pull off at the Globe? Can he revitalize everything? And but on the other side, I think everyone's like, well, what's next? Yeah. I mean, there's always the fear of the unknown. So.
Well, speaking of fear of the unknown, I do understand that one of our locals may be The name has already changed, but I understand that the old name may go on the auction block. So, want to buy a newspaper with me?
I don't have that kind of cash.
Come on, it's not going to be that much. We could buy a newspaper and start our own little media empire here. Somerville, covering Somerville back in the day. You were the beat reporter.
Yep.
You were the only reporter.
For much of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did have Audie Gruha was over at the Somerville Journal back then doing some schools for a while. But
Right.
for a while I was carrying the whole thing.
Yep. You and I, our paths crossed many, many times.
Yep. And when that reminds me, because
Local
I
issue.
brought a prod because I dug this out. I got about a box of old newspapers and see if I can get this thing.
Let me see this
So
one.
this was a story that I wrote with your assistance and Wig Zamor for when the Green Line was just the conceptual ideas were coming out of it.
What's the date on this?
This is April 8th, 2004. And the graph that, when I pulled this out, what stuck in my mind here, let's see, this is last month, the MBTA chose Watertown-based firm Vanasse, Hengen, and Bruslin, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, to study potential Green Line routes through Somerville for a rail line extension the state has committed to build by 2011.
2011.
So
I remember that article.
Yep, it was a really good article to report because you were taking the position that the Green Line needed to run all the way up to Medford.
Yep.
Wig Zamor was talking about how it was essential that it got to Union Square,
Right.
and that if it got up, if there was money, then it would be fine to take it across the city as
That's right.
well.
That's right.
But everyone agreed. I think you even agreed that it needed to be in Union as well. So, and to some extent, I guess it's not going all the way to Medford, at least initially, is it? I think it's going to stop out there at College Ave.
No. And I might as well break the news to Somerville at this point.
Yeah.
In 2000, what Brock is talking about is in 2004, the genesis of the movement to get the Green Line into Somerville had actually been in play for about 2 years. And then when Joe Curtatone, right at that election, it became one of the central issues between Dorothy Kelly Gay, Joe Curtatone, and Tony LaFuente.
Yep.
And Joe kind of latched onto it and said, you know what, these advocates are absolutely right. This is going to be our lifeline to bring the transit through the city. Now, at that time, there were people who said Lynch is smoking something if he thinks the state is going to get it all the way up to Medford. I'm still smoking it because I'm still hoping it will get all the way to Medford. But I don't want to break the news to Somerville, but what you see now is the state and the powers that be in this city are going to be satisfied with it coming to Union Square for the foreseeable future. I don't see where the federal government that is now shut down, I don't see where the federal government is going to come up with another $700 million. I don't see how the state of Massachusetts is going to be able to afford it. And I don't see anything Joe Curtatone or Mike McGlynn or the city manager over in Cambridge is going to be able to do.
I think some of it's going to come down to how much were they required to build because of the big dig, and some of that pressure is still going to be there.
The pressure will be there, but as I heard one legislator say, not from Somerville, you can't get blood out of a stone. If we don't have the money, we don't have the money, no matter what the agreements were made 15, 18, 20 years ago for the big dig. If we don't have the money, we don't have the money. If the federal government isn't going to give it to us, our federal representatives, the two junior senators, we got two juniors in there now. Those two junior senators plus our congressional delegation, the only one who really cares about the Green Line is Mike Capuano. Nobody else does. The congressman from out in the western part of Massachusetts could care less. So he's not going to be advocating for it. So you got Mike standing there alone advocating for it. And then you got two junior senators who, if you asked them where the Green Line was going, they probably couldn't tell you.
So 7 years later, we're still having this conversation.
7 years later, we're still having the conversation. But quite frankly, I think it's time that Somerville kind of got the message that, it's coming to Union Square, but that's about it.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And you're going to cover it.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, Lynchy's smoking something because he just reversed his opinion of the last 7 years. It won't be the first time. So, Somerville has a lot of issues. It's changed. It's morphing. It's going through its renaissance. It's going through growing pains. We have an enormous amount of development that's going on.
Yep.
same issues that you were covering
Yep,
when you were
Assembly
here
Square
before?
is just exploding down there. I'm down by Assembly Square about every weekend now, and every week. I mean, now I don't know. Is the horse show still down there? I'm not sure.
It's gone.
Is it gone now?
Yeah, they took the tent down.
Yeah,
It's gone.
but that thing really had a long run.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, but yeah, every time I go down there, it's it's almost like another building has gone up.
Yeah.
And
One of my less respectful friends from outside of Somerville calls it Chia Square. It's almost like every time it rains, another building comes
Yep.
up out of the ground.
Yep. And I actually just had a burger at the Riverview Burger Joint down there. So
Yeah, I couldn't have thought of a worse name to name a restaurant as the welcoming building into Assembly Square than the Burger Dive.
right. The Burger Dive, not the Burger Joint. Well,
Burger Dive.
well, the welcoming was Kmart. Kmart's welcomed everything down there. It's the longest one.
Think of a shop in
What do they have,
Kmart.
a dollar rent or something? 99-year lease
Kmart
or
has a
something?
99-year lease.
Yeah. So they'll be there for eternity. Might be
Excuse
the
me.
last Kmart surviving.
Yeah, it'll be like the last Woolworth standing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, the developers are here. You and I had talked about it at one point. Once they get the gist of the green line coming through after this show, they might all just abandon Somerville and say, if it ain't coming, we're not building. But it's an enormous renaissance that we're going through. People are proud of it.
Yeah.
People are proud of it. But with any rapid growth like that comes, the resistance. Sometimes there's resistance, especially in the residential neighborhoods.
Right.
If they see 5-story buildings going up behind them.
Yep. Well, I mean, I in 2003, 2004, I remember spending a morning walking around in the rain with a couple of teenagers up, and I guess that was probably up kind of around your neighborhood, between Davis and Ball and Magoon.
Yeah.
Walking around the neighborhoods with a couple of kids, and they would go door to door and point out which of their friends had been basically priced out of their homes.
Right.
And I'm, 7 years later, I'm sure it's amplified. In fact, I don't know how many people are left. I'm sure it's getting worse, and it's probably not just in that area of Somerville anymore. I imagine it's spreading more towards the center and east.
Well, being the irreverent person that I am, this mayor, Joe Curtatone, has never met a developer he didn't love. So, the developers have an open invitation to come into the city. I'm not saying there's corruption there. I'm saying that he's opened the doors wide.
Well, there was a lot of room to develop. And Assembly Square was, there was nothing down there. There was nothing down
Assembly Square, Inner Belt, the main commercial districts like Union and Brick Bottom and certain areas, I agree with you. There was a lot of developable land. The problem we now have is they're grabbing up every backyard and trying to squeeze these mega houses into it.
Yeah, and it's dense. It's a dense city.
Yeah.
But it's if you look at a lot of the argument going on in the mayor's race in Boston right now, it's we need to build up. Housing is too expensive. We need to go up, and people are going to have to kind of get past this not in my backyard mentality with it. But that's up to each community is going to have to decide that. That's what Somerville's, I guess it sounds like they're going to have to start deciding it really quick right now.
Well, we have gone through an enormous amount of rezoning.
Yeah.
Union Square has been rezoned, Winter Hill has been rezoned. They're looking at Davis now. They're going to try to do some of that. I'm just glad, you were at the cusp of starting to cover some of the stuff in Magoon Square. We finally got our money through default. The stimulus money was sitting on the doorstep. So we got the money from Magoon Square. It's been revitalized. The merchants have come, not because of any one individual, but because the square was redone. It made a more welcoming and inviting environment.
Right.
So we're pretty much built out.
It looks nice down there too.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the merchants deserve a great deal of credit, and the people in the neighborhood, because they supported the redevelopment of that square. Davis is going to go through some gyrations in the future. I'm sure you have a whole list. Your editors have given you a list of things. Here's the hot stuff in Somerville.
Right. And Union, obviously, right behind us is maybe the biggest change coming anywhere.
Some of the stories that have been coming out in the paper about affordable housing down here, it's always that back and forth, Brock, of not in my backyard affordable housing, but I don't think they quite get, the old days of putting in affordable housing and it didn't quite fit in the rest of the neighborhood. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know what the affordable housing from the outside, you wouldn't know.
Yep.
So.
Yep. No, I mean, and at the same time, you got to maintain the business community down here
Correct.
as well. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what are your plans? You're gonna move from Boston. You're coming back to Somerville.
I wouldn't mind living in Somerville, but I have to tell you,
you can't.
It's not expensive. I mean, it's not cheap. It's very expensive. It's going up everywhere in Boston. I mean, it's getting to the point where if you want to live in the metro area, you've got to go an hour out, and then they're driving, and it just defeats itself. So. I don't know. Well, I'll see. We'll definitely look. I know areas in Somerville that I like, so I'll be looking for a place to keep that baby. So
yeah. Well, I'm surprised in my little chunk of the neighborhood, the enormous amount of children that are now on the streets, and I love it. I love seeing kids playing on the street. I mean, you got to be careful, but in our little dense neighborhood, the streets are small enough. All the kids are back out playing. The only thing I still worry about in this city is the public school system.
Right.
Is because if that public school system is not up to par, you're not going to keep those customers. You're not going to keep those new parents that are coming in with their kids, or they're going to go to charter school, or they're going to go to parochial schools.
Right.
So, I want to welcome you back, just in time for election season. Election season, Brock's favorite time of year.
Yep. Yeah, and I've already seen some. I'm coming back into it. I'm looking at the roster of aldermen. I'm seeing Tony LaFlint is now an alderman.
There you go.
When I started at the Somerville Journal, it was Tony versus Joe.
Right.
I came in right after Dot Gay had lost in the primary, and was front row right there for Joe versus Tony. So it's interesting to see.
Well, we don't have a mayoral race this year.
Yep.
Unless anybody wants to write my name in, feel free. Go ahead. But 5 alderman seats.
Yep.
Alderman at large.
Yep. And
school committee. It's all churning. It's turning over, and I think that change is healthy.
Yep.
I think it's very, very healthy.
Yep.
We're going to wrap up in just about a minute. So,
okay.
Tell me what you want. Your favorite Somerville story.
Favorite Somerville story? Oh man, you put me on the spot.
There you go.
Well, I'll just go back to one that we had in the studio, kind of staying on topic. Many years ago, I was down here at SCAT with Cat Powers. We were doing a mayoral debate between Joe Curtatone and Tony LaFlint. And, Cat and I are doing our things, but in the meantime, we had paid someone to come in and judge the two candidates on their manners. Just sit in another room, and we wrote a whole story about that. That was part of the genius of Kat. She always was thinking outside the box like that, and I think Tony ended up getting the edge because if I recall correctly, it was Joe didn't get up to shake hands. And didn't stand to shake hands, which is, I guess, is a little protocol no-no. So
I've always been taught whether it's male, female, it doesn't matter. You stand up.
He may have been, in his defense, he may have been mic'd in and may have not wanted to disturb it, but I don't know. So
there you go.
But yeah, that was a fun one.
Brock Parker, welcome back to Somerville.
Thanks.
I hope you come back and see us soon.
I will do. Definitely.
Watch for Brock's articles in the Boston Globe. As always, stay safe, stay informed. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us here on A Greater Somerville.